Welcome to the Sport of Politics with Joel ROBIDEAUX on 103.7 The Game, online at 1037thegame.com. We discuss the local issues affecting you and the Acadiana area with Lafayette City Parish Mayor President Joel ROBIDEAUX. From time to time, we'll have special guests and always make time to take your calls. Now, time for the Sport of Politics with Joel ROBIDEAUX. Here's your host, Dave Schultz.
All right, welcome to the Sport of Politics. Mayor President Joel ROBIDEAUX may have picked the wrong day to miss this show. He's, well, I presume, trying to get to Washington, D.C. based on the weather that we're seeing. He may have a little bit of an issue, but he's not with us today. We wish him a safe travel, of course. But joining us now, we're honored to have him. It's the interim police chief, Reggie Thomas of the Lafayette Police Department. A little bit later on, we will have State Senator Paige Cortez. Chief, thanks very much for joining me on the Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations. How did this come about?
I guess it came about 25 years. I'm a veteran. I've been with this department for 25 years. And during that time, tell you a little background.
Sure, please do.
In reference to my law enforcement. What happened was I'm from New Orleans. So I came to Lafayette after I was in the military, in the Air Force. Air Force Reserve for about 10 years. So I came to Lafayette for this police department and came here 25 years ago, started in patrol like every officer. Then I went to Metro Narcotics. After being a narcotics agent, I basically was in every division of the police department. So as far as, and then I also did investigation work for about 8 years, which I really enjoyed. That's one of my favorites, I must say. I always had a goal to be the police chief. I went to the FBI National Academy, which is a leadership academy for people that inspires to be a police chief or a ranking officer. So during the process, as the mayor was looking for somebody, I spoke to him several times in reference to my plans and the things that I would like to see building on the department, and I was chosen.
Well, the first thing is I'm calling you out on the 25 years and the 10 years in the Air Force. You do not look, we'll say that mature. You're looking quite fit and young for your experience. Let's put it that way. I'm calling baloney on that. You have not spent 35 years in the workforce. In fact, I'd put it closer to 35 years old.
Well, I think you're right about that. Maybe 3 years active and the rest in the reserve unit. So I was actually working here while I was in a reserve unit.
Oh, there you go. All right. So 25 years experience. What was it like getting trained by the FBI? How would you compare, FBI training with police training?
More intense. It was a leadership training. What it was officers from all different parts of the country, all different cities come in, and they trained from there. So it was much more intense. It was much more physical. They have what they call a gold brick run that you have to complete, and it's like 7 miles, and it's like an obstacle, and pretty much they get you prepared for that. But all the classes you take are leadership classes, so it was really motivating. The graduation was really something that we really worked hard for. So it was something that I enjoyed, and I'm glad I did. I would do it again.
Yeah, see, for me, from my point of view, just not knowing anything about it, it would seem to be more of an investigative role with the FBI, because that's what they would seem to do, whereas the police is more reactionary outside of the detective work, I would think. And even that seems to be reactionary as well.
Yeah, they had many types of classes that they did, because the academy was maybe about 200 people. So they had many different classes that they did. And a lot of classes was based upon investigation and stuff. And as I said earlier, that's one of my better, I really like investigation. I was in investigation for 8 years, and I also supervised it as a lieutenant for about another year or two. So that's my passion pretty much in police work.
All right, we'll take your calls on the ropesoapanddope.com hotline for interim police Reggie Thomas in the next segment, 706-0111. 706-0111. Dave Schultz along with the interim police chief Reggie Thomas on the Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game. All right, what does it mean to be the interim police chief?
For me,
Right.
personally, it's a dream come true, to be honest with you. After spending 25 years, when you first come into the department, you look at chief and you look at ranking officers and
Sure.
you say to yourself, I wonder could I ever get to that level?
Right.
You know, and one of the things that I did was I wanted to see each section. And we have what we call a civil service representative, where the officers vote for you to represent them. And I was voted 2 terms to represent the officers. So, you know, as far as my peers, you know, they really respect me. So once I'm really excited over it. I mean, it's pretty much a dream that came through for me, to be honest with you.
So it almost sounds like you could be a little bit disappointed that you're not going to be considered for the actual chief. I mean, that was the decision Joel made before he brought you on. Or does it come to the point you're doing such a great job that with all the candidates that he gets in, he says, my best chief is the one sitting right in front of me.
I will tell you this, never say never,
Right,
because after
right.
25 years, you never say never. But I was tapped to be interim chief,
Right.
And that's what I'm focused on totally. The mayor has said that even after that, he will get a deputy chief, which would be the second involved.
Oh, okay. So you'd have a shot at that.
Yes, he will
Okay.
definitely tap me for that.
Okay. So this only happened a couple of days ago where you were officially named interim chief. What have you been doing for the last couple of days?
Congratulations, congratulations.
Right.
But no, Chief Kraft is somebody that's been there for 39 years.
Right,
And he's
right.
been our chief for 10 years, and he's very knowledgeable about a lot of things. He's also a graduate of the FBI Academy. So, you know, as you can see, he was a mentor of mine. You know, he spoke
Sure.
to me, and he told me, hey, these are the things you need to do if you want to be in that position. So right now, he's in the process of showing me the different things that goes on. I'm meeting with him constantly, at least 2 hours a day. I follow him around. So
Right.
I definitely will be prepared for the position. So it's just a lot of looking at what the chief does day in and day out and following that schedule.
Well, his leadership has come through so strongly. He's now tapped by the governor to join his team in Baton Rouge. You know, he goes out on a high note or a low note, depending on the way you want to look at it, but obviously a high note on his leadership with the theater shooting last year. What did you learn from that experience? Because that's going to take everything that you've learned all those 25 years, you know, Chief Kraft, his 39 years of experience to shine through, and obviously he did.
Yeah, with just on that particular scene, you know, you always see the people that's up front.
Right.
I was in charge of the detective section.
Right,
So
right.
I ran that particular.
There you go.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm very aware of what he did, what I did, and what our department did, which was an excellent job.
Yeah, that's almost, not to interrupt, but that's almost two different things. Handling the investigation and then dealing with, you know, people like me, but not only on the local level with the media, but the national media was camped out here for a week at least.
Yes. And basically you had to get it right pretty much. And you can tell we got it right, because if we
Right.
didn't get it right, it'll be everywhere. We'd be on CNN if we didn't get it right. So again, he mentors me. I look at what he did and the things he did. So I'm very comfortable, very confident that I will do a good job, because, you know, just like anybody else, I have plans. You know, I had him laughing yesterday because I was like, it's like driving. It's like he's been driving a car for the last 10 years,
Right.
and I've been on a passenger side, and I said, you know, it was turns that you made that I would have made differently.
Okay.
And it was probably speeds you was going fast, and sometimes I would have slowed up.
Right.
But we got to the same part where we needed to be, and I think that's what counts. I think police work is you have to get the results, and I think we have gotten the results. I think this department is in great shape, and I'm taking over a department that's in great shape, so I'm excited over that.
All right, we'll take your calls on the ropesoapanddope.com hotline, 706-0111, 706-0111. Let's take a timeout. We're talking with Lafayette Interim Police Chief Reggie Thomas. Senator Paige Cortez still to come. Hang with us on the Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game and 103.7thegame.com.
Now, back to Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game and 103.7thegame.com with Lafayette City Parish Mayor President Joel Robideau. Here's your host, Dave Schultz.
All right, Joel Robideau allegedly traveling to D.C. today. They're looking at a huge snowstorm. So hopefully his travel is safe. He is not with us today. He'll be back with us next week. We do have interim police chief from the Lafayette Police Department, Reggie Thomas, joining us, and then State Senator Paige Cortez will join us as well on the Sport of Politics. Dave Schultz with you on Acadiana Sports Station 103.7 The Game and 103.7thegame.com. Show will be on KDCG Friday morning at 7 a.m. if you want to hear the replay or watch the replay, as the case may be. And, of course, we'll be happy to take your calls on the ropeshopeanddope.com hotline, 706-0111, 706-0111. If you have any questions for Interim Police Chief Reggie Thomas, he'll be glad to ask. All right, we'll get into, you said your plans. Let's ask you that. What are your plans? How long do you expect to do this? First question. I'm going too fast even for myself. All right, you get the title. Alan Michael said that's cool to be called chief. You know, the missus cares about the cash. Did you get a nice bump? Is there a nice bump at least temporarily?
Temporarily.
How long is this expected to be?
About 6 months.
Okay.
Basically, with civil service, they have qualifications and they have things that you have to do to hire a chief of police.
Right.
Now,
right.
of course, the mayor picks the chief of police, but he does want to do a national search, a nationwide search. So of course that's going to take a while. Then it's a test position. You have to test for the position.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. And then then you have to do interviews and things like that.
Sure.
So speaking to him, he's saying that it will normally it's at least 4 months, 5 months. That's without a national, a nationwide search. So 6 months at least for the entire process to take place.
So minimum through June, and depending on what goes on through that, it'll be later than that. All right.
Yes.
All right. So you said you have some plans.
Yes.
What are your plans here in the very short term? What can you do?
Well, number one, let's start with body cameras.
All right, there you go. He beat me to the punch.
I'm a big component of body cameras. Our department, we already have funds for it.
Sure.
And we already working on getting body cameras. But I would definitely speed that process up.
Oh, okay.
I think it's time that we put body cameras on our offices. You would have asked me that in the past, I probably would have not believed the same thing. But
Right.
again, like I'm involved in investigations and major investigations.
Right.
And investigation, you want all the facts. So what
Right.
happens now is with the camera phones and everybody who has camera phone, you get the facts, but you just get that little snippet
Correct.
of the facts. You know, what you want to do, you want to get it from beginning to the end. So most departments then went to body cameras. I think body cameras does work, you know, just like anything. People would argue with you and say, well, what about this? What about that? You know, but for those little arguments that they have, the totality of it is that body cameras work. Give me more facts than less facts.
Right.
So we're close to getting body cameras because we have been dealing with different people to purchase them. We have the money to purchase them, so we will get them immediately. That's one of the top goals I have for sure.
All right, so explain to me how a body camera work. Obviously, you're putting a body camera on the officers, so people get a video footage of what happens during an engagement. We'll say it that way. How do the officers not turn off the body cameras?
The body cameras, you have policies in place, and officers can turn them off.
Right.
But when they do turn them off, it's different things that we are alerted that
Sure.
they are turning the body cameras off.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And when that happens, then you know, that's a problem. That's a major problem.
Right.
So, you know, and different arguments that people have is like, you know, domestic violence situation. It
Sure.
might be something private or whatever. You know, we're not here to tape a domestic situation or anything like that, you know.
No, of course not.
But it might happen. But I'd rather have that and able to discard that and then have something happen during that domestic situation, you know, and we don't have it videoed. So my whole thing is the negative part of it, the positive totally outweigh the negative. So,
Right.
I think I would say that we are maybe a step behind on that, and we need to get on board with body cameras like yesterday.
Right. Well, it seems to me, and I could be wrong, and we'll see what. Obviously, you're a pro body cameras. It seems to me that not only does it protect the potential suspect, but it protects the cop as well. Here's my story. You don't believe my story? Here's the video.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And as you could imagine, the officers do get complaints. I mean, people don't
Sure.
like getting tickets. People don't like being arrested. So
Right.
I would like the whole story, not just one
Right.
side of the story.
Exactly.
So that's basically my stance on that.
We're talking interim police chief of Lafayette Police Department, Reggie Thomas, on the Sport of Politics on Acadiana Sports Station 103.7 The Game and 103.7thegame.com. We'll take your calls 706-0111, 706-0111 if you have any questions for the interim police chief. I don't know if I grew up this way or ever heard about it. The most dangerous situations for the police is, and it's more prevalent now because of social media, it is those domestic violence situations compared to a bank robbery or something like that, because it is so personal. And we actually had in this area a domestic violence situation yesterday that ended up in a fatality because, it was going to come to fruition that the suspect, and in this case, the perpetrator, was going to do something dangerous, and the police went in and ended it as best they could, unfortunately.
Yes, I've in the past I've done a lot of domestic violence work. I was one of the ones that did the grants for what we call VAWA, that's Violence Against Women's Act. And basically, you're absolutely right. Right, domestic violence cases are the most dangerous because it's personal, it's family. Officers go there, and it's dangerous for the officers.
That's what I mean. It's not only dangerous for the people involved, but it is dangerous for the officers to get in the middle of something like that because, emotions run hot.
And as you can imagine, in my 25 years, I've saw a lot.
Right.
And I've had a lot happen to me. You go to make an arrest on a father, and the whole family jumps on you.
Right.
It's like, it's unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, but you never could tell what goes on. But, we have policies where two officers go in when it's a domestic violence situation. You just don't rush in by yourself. So we're trained, and we do things to prevent our officers from getting injured in any way.
All right, let's take a time out. We'll ask about Mardi Gras plans. That's coming up. It's actually going on as the balls and all the parade's going to start here in a couple of balls going on. Parade's going to start here at the end of the month, beginning February. We'll be back with more of the Sport of Politics with interim police chief Reggie Thomas, and we already see State Senator Paige Cortez. He's coming up after that on Acadiana Sports Station 103.7 The Game.
Back to Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game and 103.7thegame.com.
All right, Dave Schultz, back on the Sport of Politics. Again, Mayor President Joel ROBIDEAUX is in D.C. We think he's trying to get there anyways. Snowocalypse, or whatever they're calling it. Huge snowstorm hitting the East Coast, so we wish Joel all the best. He'll be back next week. For the meantime, we are with the interim police chief of the Lafayette Police Department, Reggie Thomas. State Senator Paige Cortez will be coming up next. We'll take your calls, 706-0111, 706-0111 for either the chief or, coming up next, Paige Cortez. All right, plans for Mardi Gras. Obviously, that takes a lot of work. Not only setting it up, making sure everybody's safe, but then the cleanup as well. So tell us about the plans for Mardi Gras.
The first parade will begin on Saturday, January 30 at 6:30. All streets on and around the parade route will be closed, of course. All parades will begin at pointing at point as usual. That's Jefferson Street and Surrey Street, and in that Cajun Dome. The only difference is the children's parade, which would be scheduled for Saturday, February 6th at 12:30, and that will begin at Lafayette Street and West Vermilion Street, and also end at the Cajun Dome. You can we have a website, LafayetteLA.gov, LafayetteLA.gov, or LafayetteTravel.gov/Mardi Gras. Those two websites you can look on, and you can get all the information that you need.
And how much manpower, takes it to make sure these parades are safe, and then, all the, let's say, revelry that goes on during these, and, before, during, and after the parades.
Let's just say this: no police officer is at home off for that particular day.
Right.
OT,
baby, OT.
Yeah, a lot of OT, and even after the Mardi Gras, a lot of people go to the Mardi Gras parade and they enjoy themselves.
Right.
And but the police and go home. The police, the police officers don't go home. We go to different areas.
Sure.
People like to go out after Mardi Gras. So you have the downtown area, the McKinley Strip area, and different areas that we still have to cover. So because we use almost our whole force of officers, what happens is afterwards, those officers leave the route and go directly to different other locations for patrol to make sure the city stays safe.
So talking about stepping right into it, you're named interim police chief earlier this week, and then bam, it's Mardi Gras. Yes. I'm sure plans are already well made in advance, but what are your major concerns as Mardi Gras gets underway?
The citizens of Lafayette, that's my major concern. No, and we know all the incidents that can go on and that can happen. So we utilize every personnel we can. The sheriff's office, the city marshal, everybody helps us. Right. So we even have somebody in the air at times, So everybody assists us. Everybody we can bring in, we bring them in. It's a large operation. We've done it year in and year out with success. And under my tenure, I definitely want to continue that success. So we will be out, and we will be out early. We will be out all day, and we will keep the people of Lafayette safe, just as we did in the past.
Now, one of the things, from somebody who's from outside the area, lived in Jersey, really high car insurance rates. Lived on the ocean in Florida, you would have thought that the insurance rates would be a little bit higher, but not so much. Here, they are through the roof. I'm sure drive-through daiquiris have a little bit to do with that. Now, on New Year's Eve, I'm told there was a mandatory checkpoint. What's the difference between a mandatory checkpoint and a different kind of checkpoint? I would thought that all checkpoints are mandatory. Someone does a U-turn, they're going to be, someone's going after them.
A mandatory checkpoint pretty much is really we're stopping every vehicle.
Right.
And we're talking to each person at that time.
Okay.
A regular checkpoint, vehicles
random.
Come through. It's just a random thing. That's the only difference. And, of course, if you're turning around, it does create a problem, and it is a suspicious circumstances.
Now, also as somebody who has, needed a ride home every now and then, cab service was a little bit difficult in this town. I think there's only 2 cab services. Now we have Uber. Have we seen any, I don't know, I guess it's been going on. Has it even been 6 months? Maybe almost 6 months since Uber's been in town. Have you seen any lowering of the DUI here in town when people can very easily get a ride home?
Honestly, I have not seen any lowering. I think it's too short of a time to really look at that particular stat. But we encourage that at any time that if you think you have too much, call somebody. And now that we do have other cab services and stuff like that, we really encourage that you use them. We're not here to arrest. We don't like arresting people, but we need to keep the city safe, and that's what our goal is.
Well, I mean, the worst thing that can happen to somebody is actually getting pulled over, right? I mean, that out of all of the worst case scenarios, getting pulled over before you either hurt yourself or unfortunately hurt somebody else is getting pulled over.
Yes.
We try not to do that, obviously, and that is a big deal to me as well. All right, let's take one more break. We got another break. We want to thank Lafayette Interim Police Chief. Congratulations again. It's good to know that I have your number just in case. I'm calling him. If I need a ride home, I got his number. I'm going to call him. Congratulations. Best of luck with the video cameras. I think that's forward progress for a police department. And, enjoy being chief for 6 months to maybe a little longer. Thanks for joining us on the Sport of Politics.
Thank you.
Now, back to Sport of Politics on 1037 The Game and 1037thegame.com with Lafayette City Parish Mayor President Joel Robideau. Here's your host, Dave Schultz.
All right, Joel Robideau out in D.C. promoting Mardi Gras. The mayor president will be back next week. In the meantime, I want to thank interim police chief Reggie Thomas for joining us. Now, it is time for State Senator Paige Cortez. Thanks very much for joining us, Senator. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, let's talk about your career for a little bit. Boy, you are, native here in Lafayette, went to school here in Lafayette, graduated college here in Lafayette, and taught here in Lafayette. Tell us about it.
That's right. I grew up, literally right there on Congress Street, just a few blocks from Lafayette High. Went to high school at Lafayette High, played sports there.
What'd you play?
I played football and baseball.
Oh, nice.
And went on to USL at the time, graduated from USL, and ultimately got a degree in education and went back into teaching and taught and coached. Coached for a year down in New Iberia at Catholic High in New Iberia, and then I came back and did a stint at my old alma mater at Lafayette High and enjoyed those days. And so I spent about 6 years in education.
And then how did you get into business?
Well, my father-in-law was an old coach. He coached at the old Fatima High School before it became an elementary school, and it was a football coach. And he got out of it and got into the furniture business. And so one day he said, "Look, I'm opening a new furniture store, and one day it's going to be you all." He has 2 children. And he said, coaching. He said it. Put it this way: coaching is terminal.
Right. That's a tough way to put it, but that's true.
You will quit, you will get fired, or you will terminate it yourself and move into administration or move on. And it really, there's a rare breed of coach that stays. The Louis Cooks of the world, Ted Davidsons, who stay and coach their whole career. But I was a classroom teacher as well. So I taught American history and civics. Enjoyed.
Oh, nice.
I've always been enamored with history and civics and. I left, got into business, and my kids were getting a little older. Was able to spend a lot of time with them as they grew up. And as they got into high school and started getting out of high school, started looking for something else, and had always been enamored with the political process. And so I decided to run for state representative in 2007. And it's in some ways, it was a dream, and in another way, it's like the dog chasing the big 18-wheeler. When you catch it, what do you do?
Right. I won.
So I spent 4 years in the House of Representatives, and then 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, ran for the Senate. Spent 4 years in the Senate, and this is my second term, starting my second term in the Senate.
What did you learn about people running the business compared to being a politician?
Well, there's some similarities, but the difference is when you set goals in a business, you can turn on a dime. If things aren't working out, in a small business, you can say, well, tomorrow we're going to change our sale and we're going to run a different sale tomorrow.
There you go.
Or we're going to take a different tack. In government, you appropriate funds annually, and you say, here's what we're going to do for the next year. And it's like a marketing plan in my business can change from, we can decide the first quarter, and by the end of January say, no, we're not doing that in February.
Right.
In government, you can't do that because you're required by the Constitution to lay things out. And so it's different in that regard. So you set these long-term spending bills out there, and when the price of oil starts out at $50 a barrel and ends up at $29, you don't have the revenue you thought you were going to have, and so you have to make some decisions, whether that's cuts or whatnot.
How frustrating was that for you, coming from the business world into the world of politics?
Well, it is frustrating, but you learn real quick that that's just part of what you have to deal with.
Right.
It's sort of a different walk of life. You move into that arena, and that is that arena.
Right.
And universities live by that. They have their budget for the year, and school systems have that. Anything that gets public funds works within that same arena.
But even as a teacher, if you have, and this probably changed as you went along, if something's not getting through to a class, you can change that as well.
That's right.
Tough to do that in politics. I'm going to take a different tack. They're not getting the Civil War the way I want them to get the Civil War.
That's exactly right.
We need to do something else.
That's right. Let's go watch Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, right? We got that movie coming out, right? Free State of Jones. Is that something you even taught about? I did not know about that. Obviously,
No.
I'm a Yankee. I don't sound like I'm from down here, but I did not know about that at all.
Well, welcome to South Louisiana.
Is that something taught in high schools down here, the Free State of Jones? I mean, it was in Mississippi, but
No.
it was shot here actually.
First and foremost, in American history, the one thing I tell people is it's hard. It was hard at the time to fit 200 years
Right.
into 1 year
Right.
with high school juniors. Now you got to fit 228 years or
Right.
400 years, or if you want to go back to the explorers. I mean, you could spend 2 years talking about Louisiana history.
Oh, right.
You know,
right.
and
I'm sure there's
American
some college
history
classes
is,
just on the Civil War, right?
And
We
so-
got a graduate
yeah.
level courses just on those 4 years.
So it's really a survey. But anyway, it was some great days teaching and coaching.
All right, so let's talk about the government in Baton Rouge. Governor Edwards takes over. Obviously going to be dealing with a Republican legislature, but already it seems that there is bipartisan efforts to deal with this budget. He has given everybody an outline quickly, and mostly it seems to be raising taxes. Not all that much, but still a raise, and obviously some people are vehemently against that idea. But what are your thoughts on what the governor has laid out so far?
So it goes back to what we talked about earlier.
Right.
So at the beginning of the fiscal year, we were told by the Revenue Estimating Commission, we have $9 billion in state general fund. Okay, that's what the revenue we're going to have this year. They said projecting out, we're going to have this much severance, this much sales tax, this much income, corporate income. And then all of a sudden, mid-year, they said, oh, well, we're not going to have quite as much as we thought, so we have a $487 million deficit. So we got to make
right.
we got to make a. It's
Right. I didn't win the Powerball, so I can't donate to fix that debt.
$500 million.
Right.
So we fixed that one in December.
By doing what?
Well, we actually moved some money out of a fund that was the majority of it was fixed with a number of different things. We made some cuts and things, but the governor has the mid-year ability to make these decisions to cut certain things. Then he goes to the joint legislative committees on the budget, which is the House Appropriations Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. Now, I don't sit on that committee, but with their approval, he can do other things. They approved the moving of a lot of money that was going to be paid back to the federal government, and they delayed that payment and used that for the mid-year to cover up the mid-year. So we fixed that, at least.
Wow.
Limped through the election.
Okay.
And then once the election was over, they found out, well, that 487 we thought was a lot. We got another $750 million less.
Wonderful.
And so
Is that from the economy, or was that the budget?
both?
Okay.
Both. It was from the budget was set up such that there were certain contingencies that were supposed to bring in
Sure.
this, and they
didn't.
didn't.
Right.
And then you had certain revenue streams that were supposed to bring. For example, $1 a barrel of oil over the course of a year. So if we budget at $50,
Right.
okay, and it drops to $40 a barrel over the course. For every dollar, it's $12 million in the budget in the state general fund. So if you lose $10 a barrel,
Right.
that's $120 million.
And now we're down to
Yeah, we've lost 20 or 30 million. So
we're down to 28.
yeah,
Right? It's,
20 or 29.
not,
yeah,
not that I know this, but it's been reported it costs more to have the barrel. It costs more to make the barrel of oil than it does to sell it.
that's correct.
Right.
And it may even go lower. So that has hurt the fisc.
Right.
So then the question becomes, how do you deal with it? So the new governor has to deal with this $750 million less than what we told them almost a year ago
Right.
that they had the authority to spend. So you got universities, you got corrections facilities, you have all these different
Sure.
state-run agencies, and they're all saying now we got to cut $750 million. So his proposal, he had three different non-revenue raising proposals. One was
Okay.
cuts.
Right.
You know.
Right. I mean, there's got to be a combination thereof.
So he proposed, at least 10% of the $1.6 billion discretionary fund. So that's
Right.
that's about $160 million.
Okay.
Okay. Then he said we'll use some rainy day fund money.
Okay.
If ever it was raining, it's raining now. So to what degree, I don't know how much of that we can use. There's some BP money that was discretionary, non-coastal dollars from the BP settlement. So, I mean, you may put together. Let's just use $300 million. I don't know that it'll be that
Sure.
much, but let's say it's $300 million. You still have a $450 million problem, and you've already cut to get
Right.
to that. So you've cut services at this point.
And it was pretty much cut beforehand.
It's cut in November.
Yes.
So, so where do you go? So he says, we're going to propose some revenue increases. Now, I'm going to back up and say that, the governor suggested that a Democrat was going to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Right.
With 61 Republicans, the Republicans decided that they were going to pick a Republican Speaker, and
which
local
is from
guy.
this area now too, right?
Yep. Taylor Barra, State Representative Taylor Barra, from New Iberia. He and I were elected in 2007 to the House together, so I've served with him. He's a tremendous individual of great character, and so he will lead that House very well. But the question then becomes, all revenue raisers start on the House side. How much is a Republican House going to be willing to raise revenue?
Right.
And so on the Senate side, we don't even get to we're like throwing in the bullpen until the ball gets to us.
Right.
So we can't do anything till revenue instruments get across our side. And they also start the budgetary process.
Right.
So if there's going to be a cut in the budget, they're going to pass a new supplemental budget that's going to bring cuts. The Senate, of course, will get a second look at those, but what happens is it's really up in the air, and who knows? We may be in March and oil will be at $50 a barrel. I doubt it.
It is so odd because everybody else around the United States. Oh my God, I've seen it. Less than $1.40. Everybody else around the United States is thrilled with the gas because it puts money in it. It is legitimate. Instead of paying $50 for a tank of gas, people are legitimately paying less than $20 for a tank of gas. This area, it is not quite that simple.
And interestingly enough, it's a great segue into I was named the Senate Transportation Chairman.
Right.
Well, the fuel tax is on the gallon, so it's 20 cents per gallon. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, people are buying more gasoline, so our Transportation Trust Fund has better revenues than it's ever had before because people are driving more.
So they're going to come after your money.
Well, this governor has said over and over, we're not going to use that money. We've been using that money to pay state police and to pay a lot of things, which are permissive in the Constitution. But he said, no, we're going to use that for roads. We got a bigger roads problem. So he's not going to dip into that money.
Is he going to raise the tax on that money? Or is he going to raise the taxes on the gallon?
I don't think that's on the table right now for the special session. That wasn't one of the proposals.
All right.
That's may come about if they have a governor sends out a call, meaning a proclamation that we're going to have a special session.
Right.
And here are the things you can discuss within it. So if it's not within the call, you can't file a bill. But I think the call will be broad enough that someone could file that bill. Remember, an increase in taxes would have to start on the House side.
Right.
But I haven't heard any.
Start high and negotiate down.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any of that with transportation coming out.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a break. We got State Senator Paige Cortez joining us on the Sport of Politics on Acadiana Sports Station 103.7 The Game. We can take your calls next. If you have any questions, 706-0111, 706-0111. We'll see if the governor's trying to take care of this budget deficit in 1 year or in 4 years. We'll be back after this on Acadiana Sports Station 103.7 The Game.
Now, back to Sport of Politics on 103.7 The Game and 1037thegame.com with Lafayette City Parish Mayor President Joel Robideau. Here's your host, Dave Schultz.
All right, one more segment on the Sport of Politics. Again, special thanks to Interim Lafayette Police Chief Reggie Thomas for joining us. We're talking to State Senator Paige Cortez. If you do have a question, we do have time for a phone call, 706-0111, 706-0111. One of the questions that I have, you're bringing up the budget situation with the governor. Is he trying to fix the whole problem in 1 year, or is this a 4-year situation?
Well, we're going to be called into a special session February 14th and last for 3 weeks. And I think the intent of that special session is to fix the current year problem and potentially offer some solutions that have time constraints behind them for the future structural problems. For example, many problems that we have is that the Constitution, or constitutional issues. Well, to get a constitutional amendment changed, you've got to pass 2/3 of both houses and go before a vote of the people.
Right.
Well, if you pass the resolution in the special session, you wouldn't go to a vote of the people until maybe the November congressional and presidential election.
Yeah.
Even if it passed then, it wouldn't go into effect till maybe the fall. If it was a
If you're
an
lucky.
income tax issue.
Right.
It wouldn't go into effect till the next April when you file your taxes.
Right.
So that's not a quick fix. That's
No,
a
not at
long-term
all.
structural change
Sure.
of how we tax. And so there may be some of those introduced. I haven't been privy to any of that, but I don't think that there's an attempt to fix everything right now in the special session, but to start laying the groundwork for the changes that could be. And look, there's going to have to be a lot of come together on this because
Right.
there's 105 members of the House, 61 are Republicans, and you'll need a 70-member vote, a two-thirds vote, to get a revenue-raising instrument or a constitutional amendment change out of that House. On the Senate side, we have 39 members. It takes 26 of us, and I think we have 25 Republicans.
Right.
So, you get 14 senators against something that requires a two-thirds vote, it ain't happening.
It does seem, though, and it could be just publicly, a lot of the people in charge obviously are Republicans, such as yourself, and they seem to be willing to at least listen. Everyone was thankful for, the plans. They obviously, Republicans, as they always do, want to hear about the cuts more than revenue, but at the same time, everyone seems to be in reality that there may need to be some revenue in the plans as well.
Well, the one thing I learned when I first got involved in this process, it takes a while, and everybody wants to hear all the details, and so nothing happens quickly in this process. Some people, sometimes the public says, I heard on the press conference yesterday, the governor's raising it tax by a penny. Well, from my civics days, I have to say, well, let's stop, let's pump the brakes a little bit. The legislature is the only body that can raise taxes.
Right.
Governor can veto them maybe, but he can't raise them himself. So that's the first step. Second step is we got a legislative session coming up, a special session where we can deal with these. But then after that, we have a special session. Then we go to the regular session. It's a non-fiscal. So you can't even talk about taxes in that session. So if he doesn't take care of those instruments in this 3-week session, then he may call a second special session on top of the regular session, or we may have another special session after that regular session.
Right.
But if not, it'll be April of 17 before we can talk about taxes again.
So we're going to think something's probably going to get done fast.
Well, I think you're going to put something. The wheels will start turning on some things.
Right.
But again, a lot of these will go before the vote of the people, because it may be constitutional changes,
Right.
and that may be a reduction in your income tax, but with the caveat that we remove the federal deduction.
Right.
Federal income tax.
All right.
So things like that he's put in his press release these are all options. There's numerous options, and I think as I said earlier, they all for the most part will start on the House side, which is a fairly conservative House, and so he's going to have to go and negotiate with leadership of the House to see what the temperature and the pulse of the House is.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the one reason I enjoy politics is that, outside of sports, there's nothing as cutthroat as sports as in politics, especially in D.C., and we'll see what happens in Baton Rouge. While I have you here in charge of Transportation Committee, Highway 90. All right, that's, Joe Robideau was saying, I could be in, office for 3 terms and maybe just get it started. How does something like that get underway?
Well,
you have about a minute and a half.
It's been talked about as long as I can remember. The
Right,
I-49 connector. 2 things are going on right now. One, it has a price tag of probably $800 million.
Well, think of the jobs.
Yeah, right. But where's that money coming from?
Right.
We're trying to cut that much out of the state budget within 3 months, and yet a lot of it's going to have to be federal dollars. It's going to be some state dollars. Maybe ultimately be some public-private,
Sure.
like a toll or something like that. But that's the first step. Second, the one good thing we have is we have the corridor. The federal environmental impact statement has been done.
Okay.
So we know where it's going to go.
Okay.
We need to now decide what it's going to look like, and there's some debates going on right now. As I think Saturday there's another one. The concern that I think, I don't want to speak for him, but Mayor President Robideau would say is, look, if they can't come to an agreement, then we're not going to see anything done.
Right.
We still have the corridor prepared, and we just won't have any movement. So just like in the legislature, the people have to come together and say, we want a road more so than we want this one person to get their way or this one person. Because if everybody gets their way, we get no road.
Right.
And so it's the number one priority for the state of Louisiana. It's also very high on the federal highway roads.
That's always good. All right. Want to thank State Senator Paige Cortez along with interim Lafayette Police Chief Reggie Thomas for joining us on a Sport of Politics Thursday. Join us every Thursday at 9 a.m. for the Sport of Politics. Show replays 7 a.m. Friday mornings on KDCG. Thanks to Alan Michael. Bang up job. We'll be back with more on 103.7 The Game.